Hey besties, welcome to our group chat podcast. We're your hosts, Sarah
and Melena. We're here to discuss all things pop culture, reality TV, entertainment, and everything in between.
The same way you would in your favorite group chat.
Thanks for listening. Hey bestie.
Hey.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Anything new going on in your life that you should share?
I'm just feeling positive this week. I feel like things are looking good, trending up in Canada, especially Ontario with COVID and everything. So I feel like this week I'm feeling really excited, really happy. Yeah, nothing new, but I feel like the vibes are good this week. How about you?
I feel like we're the opposite because I'm so negative this week. Like every single day, I've had a negative encounter or a negative moment, and it's just been a negative week.
Is it Mercury in retrograde or something?
I think so, and I think it's really affecting me.
Okay, well, we're gonna blame it on that then.
But other than that, like, life is good. It's just like I feel like once I get into the negativity, I like sulk and I really simmer in it. I need to just like crawl myself out. But I see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, you need to stop bathing in your negativity and be,
I know. And
a
I'm back at
positive.
work now, so
Fair.
I mean, but it's okay. This week was a good week.
Good.
Other than my negativity, but I'll get over it.
There you go.
Okay, well, let's just jump right in to our episode. Before we do, we just want to give a quick trigger warning, so Sarah will take it away.
Yeah, so we want to give a little bit of a trigger warning to anyone, that is sensitive or triggered by sexual abuse, rape, anything like that. And also wanted to offer the Canadian National Sexual Abuse Hotline. It's 1-866-863-0511. And then for male survivors, it's 1-866-887-0015. So wanted to give a little bit of a trigger warning and offer some support ahead of this episode because we're going to be touching on a little bit more touchy subjects during this episode. But I told Melena today that I have a big conspiracy theory. And I'm going to start off by saying I have not read Reality Steve or anything to get this sort of news. This was something that I had thought of when I saw the original post posted. But my theory is that Katie is engaged to Blake Moynes. And I'm going to tell you why. In April, she posted a picture, and I'm going to send it to Melena, and I'm going to put it on our YouTube video. I'm going to post the actual photos so that you guys can sort of follow along. And Melena, I want you to tell me what this reminds you of.
I'm scared. I'm scared. Are you sending it?
I just sent it.
Oh my god.
Do you
my
see
god.
that?
Yes, and he posted a picture.
Oh, I got more for you, girl.
Oh my gosh.
So basically what I sent to Melena was Katie is at like a cottage or whatever. Also cognizant she lives in Washington, which looks a little bit similar to Ontario. But these dark, murky waters, honestly, it's uncanny. Like you can't, it looks like Canada. And to me, it looks like Ontario. And I screenshot a bunch of photos of Blake. He has a cottage in Ontario. The trees look the same. Like I couldn't unsee it. And then I had to do a little bit more digging. And in her photo that she posted, there's a beer. So I zoomed in and she had tagged it. And this beer, specifically this label, only this one is available at the LCBO. No other ones under that brand are available at the LCBO. And I was like, this is my conspiracy. I think they're engaged. Or at least she's like, he's her final one. And I'm shook.
I'm shook because I did not think he was gonna. I knew once I saw him on the trailer, I was like, I know he's gonna make it far because they have, like, I could see them like meshing and having a connection. But I said it before, and I did not think he was gonna make it to like the final like two.
Me too. I think he's in her final four. And I think they're gonna get
That's
engaged,
crazy.
but that's just me now because I saw she posted this in April, which again, she's wearing a bikini in April, but in Canada, the weather is so unpredictable, and you could honestly be like getting a sunburn in April. I've literally gotten a sunburn in April before.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking this is either in BC or Ontario at Blake's cottage or at one of his friends' cottages because just the background of the trees looks so similar.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I feel like if they were together and engaged, like what better place to hide than at the cottage because no one's going to be in cottage country and see
Yeah.
you.
Especially, like, during that time, like, people weren't even, like, renting out their cottages. Like, it was so expensive to rent a cottage during COVID. Like, people were making it sky high, and Airbnb especially had such strict restrictions on renting out, like, cottages because of the COVID cases.
Mhm.
So they are so strict on it, and, like, you have to, like, literally have money to spend to go rent a cottage because the
Right?
prices were insane.
Yeah, so that's my theory. I might be wrong, but I was lurking her today and then I came across that photo and I was like, "Oh my God, the first time I saw this photo, I was confused because it looks just like Ontario, like that dark, deep water. It's not
Yeah.
really like a mountain range behind her. It's more of just like a bunch of trees." And then I went back and I remembered that he's always at his cottage. And I was looking at his photos and it looks similar. I might be so wrong. This might be Washington or like somewhere else. But to me, this looks so much like Ontario. And this is my theory.
If you're onto something and you're right, I'll be shook.
I'm gonna be so like, mark my words, if he wins, come on. Come on.
I'm gonna die. Oh
Yep.
my gosh. Well, he does come on next week, I'm pretty sure. Like he makes his appearance. And I
Yeah, we'll
already know
talk
it's
about
gonna
that.
shake up some water.
It really is. We'll talk about that a little bit more in this episode, but I had to start off with my theory because I couldn't stop thinking about it. I told my parents, I told my fiance, like I could not stop telling people. Yeah.
That's crazy. I'm
Hmm.
excited to see it play out now.
Me
And
too.
the only reason why I'm like, okay, this might actually be real is because like there's some beers that are sold in Canada, like at the LCBO that you can only get in Canada. Like they're made like in Canada and only sold in Canada. So since she posted that, like where else would she get it?
And like it's
We send
a
her a care package.
right, and it's a beer from Hawaii, which is so rare to find in like a beer store in an LCBO in Canada. And the fact that they have a bunch of different beers, it was only that specific blue label beer. I was like, there's no way. Like this has to be true. I don't know. Maybe I'm just
It's
looking way too into
crazy.
it, but
We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. We'll play
yeah.
this back
Yeah,
at the
stay
end.
tuned and mark my words. If I'm wrong, I'm going to be embarrassed, but whatever.
Okay, so the episode continues at the rose ceremony because last week there was none, and Carl is just like a deer in headlights slash confused slash annoying.
He's so annoying.
So the Carl Express continues into the beginning of
Choo
the
choo.
into the beginning of this episode. And the thing is, like, the whole entire Carl thing, the only thing that bothers me is that he could have said, like, if I were him and I was trying to stir the pot and, like, say a lie, I would at least make it convincing and I would drop a name.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? I'd have been like, oh, well, I heard this in passing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and you could have misconstrued it and be like, oh, well, maybe I heard this and I took it like this. But he never said who wasn't there for the right reasons. And he never said a name. He just kept saying, oh, like they should come forward myself. They should come forward themselves.
Right.
He
And
never
like,
gave it like an answer.
also, was he expecting her to be like, so does it start with an A, a B, a C, a D? Like, was he expecting her to go down the list? He was out of control this episode.
He was
And
spiraling.
he was. And did you see him shadowboxing before the rose ceremony?
Yeah, like the
Yeah. What are you doing, dude? Like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it.
yeah, he was messy. Like he
Messy.
left a whole lot of crumbs. He was messy. He did not clean up at all. And because of that, Katie, as anyone would, cancels the cocktail party and goes
Mm-hmm.
straight into the rose ceremony, which made a lot of the guys really angry. And it's really upsetting because I feel like there was two rose ceremonies in a row where there was drama and guys never got the opportunity to talk to her. And some guys like didn't go on dates. Maybe, I'm not really sure. And
Mm-hmm.
like, so if I were those guys, I'd be like, really, like, you're gonna go lie about something, and then like now I can't have my own one-on-one time, and I may go home because you decide to like bring up unnecessary drama that's like not even factual.
I agree. I feel like the people that went home were some of the guys that would have had a better conversation with her during the cocktail hour because like they were on the date, the group dates, but they didn't really have like a one-on-one opportunity with her and they
Mhm.
could have had that during the cocktail hour.
Yeah, like it's really upsetting. And I really liked how all the guys were really ripping into him,
Me too.
especially like Trey. Like I love Trey. And I just loved how everyone was like really digging into him and yelling at him. So I would have done the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just like created unnecessary drama. She already had doubts because of the whole Cody and Aaron situation. And like you're feeding those insecurities. Like no one wants that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, he went home. So he really played himself. And I feel like he would actually probably would have stayed if he didn't start drama.
Mm-hmm.
He probably would have stayed, to be honest.
I agree.
Um, but he went home and that was his own fault. And I'm sure he feels stupid. And then John went home.
I'm so sad. I
I'm
was
so
like
sad for him.
number one on the John all the way train, and I'm so sad he went home. Did you see they were clapping for him? They
It's
gave
just
him a round of applause when he left.
he's just so cute. Like that just shows like he's like a stand-up guy. You know
Yes.
what I mean? And then Kyle left. I honestly don't remember who he was. I had to look up his picture to see his name. But you know, it sucks that like they got sent home and they could have maybe had an opportunity to stay, but Carl had to ruin it for them. So for that, I feel bad that they went home.
Me too. And did Garrett go home? I feel like he did, but I can't tell because when they were showing him, they didn't show him saying goodbye and then like walking out. They just showed him saying goodbye to other people that were
I
also
don't
going home.
I don't think he got called, so he probably did go home.
Cause that is my like that was my guy, my trio that I was hoping that he would at least stay another week.
I don't think he got his name got called for a rose.
I don't think so either.
So I think he went home. It's so
Ugh,
hard because like I wish they panned on every single person that went home.
me too.
But
And
they didn't
showed
want to.
their exit.
Yeah. So I do think Garrett got sent home.
Me too.
Again, another one gone too soon.
Right? R.I.P. Garrett. Not actually, but
And then after that, okay, part of me wishes Carl stayed just because the drama would have been amazing because I knew he would have just continued the drama. But like for Katie's sake, I'm glad he went home.
I thought he was gonna stay longer. Like to be honest, I thought they were gonna like keep him out like a Victoria, keep him out for a few more
Right?
weeks, let him do his drama thing, build a story around that. But it clearly gets juicier if they sent the villain
Yeah.
home.
I thought like the producers were gonna, do their little thing and try and convince her to keep him, but clearly there's another villain that we'll talk about later
Mm-hmm.
on. So the group date was led by Nick Vile. Love to see it. Huge
Wait,
fan.
hold on. Before we talk about the group date, can we talk about how Mike stood up for everybody
Yes, oh
when
my
Carl was
God.
being sent home? It's like they sent this pure angel that has complete trust in Katie and said, "Oh, we the group, he's so for the boys for doing this." I don't know if like someone nominated him or he just did it, but told her that Carl's the bad guy, and not one of them didn't raise their hand when she asked the group, "Do you guys all agree?"
Hmm.
Couldn't have gone perfectly.
And I loved how he like called him out in front of everyone, basically called him a liar. He's like, Carl is a flat out liar. And everyone's like, yeah.
Right? Couldn't
I
believe
loved
it.
it.
Me too.
Mike again, just showing that he's just such a cutie patootie. Like I actually am obsessed with him.
Me too.
Oh, I love him. He's so cute. Okay, so for the group date, at first I was a little confused. Like, okay, when I saw all the chairs in a circle and they were on a stage and it was like black curtains, I was like, oh my God, they're gonna do like
Improv?
a skit. Yeah. It's like
Yeah,
they're gonna
me
do
too.
improv. I was like, this is gonna be really weird. It was actually I really like this date. This whole episode was like a cry fest. I cried so many times. It was a very emotional, Bachelorette episode, and I was
Mhm.
living for it.
Me
So
too.
basically, they had to be vulnerable and be 100% honest about their lives and anything that may or may not be shocking. Um, they did show like I guess like the ones we'll talk about is like the main one. So Hunter, at first I was not really a Hunter fan.
Me too.
Um, I just didn't really like him.
He's like rubbed me the wrong way. Like something
Yeah.
about him just seemed like off or weird, but I feel like it was because he was holding this story in and he wasn't
Hmm.
able to be his like true self until he told the story.
Yeah. So he talks about his divorce and how he has two kids, which I was shocked.
Mhm.
He's like 36, I think, or
Yeah,
30.
he's 30,
Yeah.
yeah, 36 or something.
Yeah. So, and he really got emotional talking about his divorce and was saying how important marriage is for him and how, like, if he ever has the opportunity to get married again, that he'll cherish it. And just make it different than his first and like really appreciate what he has in the moments that he has with his future partner, which I loved. I think him telling her like, hey, like I have two kids and like I'm like divorced, like is of course like important to know, especially if they do make it far. But just letting her know like this will be different. Like I will try my best to make sure that like this doesn't repeat itself. I loved. I got so much respect for him. Seeing
Mm,
him just cry made me so upset. And I really like Hunter.
me too. No, I completely agree. I feel like when he was talking, especially about how his divorce really was like a large part of it was about how much he works and not having enough time with his family. And I feel like that's such a real issue for people nowadays. Like, think of how
Hmm.
much work consumes you now that we're working at home. Like, there's no real difference between work life and like your social life. So I love that he like explained that he was a little bit at fault for that and that he's doing better. But yeah,
Hmm.
he's such a sweetheart. I have so much more respect for him. I really like him. He's clearly there to get engaged at the end of it. And I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about him
I
besides
am
like his
too.
divorce.
I am too. I really, really liked him. And then and then we have Thomas. Thomas was the biggest what the hell is going on? Because everyone there was like sharing something like from the heart, something, oh, like just so you know, like this is going on in my life. This is what I've done in past relationships. And then Thomas is sitting there like this is like a game of truth or dare.
I know.
He's like, oh well, I didn't come on here for the right reasons. I came here for a platform. I've led people on. I want followers. And he drops a bombshell that he went on a date right before filming.
I can't believe it. Like, this was the biggest disappointment for me. I saw so much potential in Thomas, but then when I think about it, like, he's just tall and handsome. And I feel like that's all he had going for him. Even
Hmm.
during he was the first one out of the limo, and he didn't say anything inspiring or shocking or something that you would be like, oh, I love this guy. He was honestly plain and just
Yeah.
clearly about, like, he knows that he's good looking. And he clearly is the new villain. And now I'm like, dang, was Carl the villain or was he trying to call out Thomas?
See, that's what I thought. At first, I was like, did he maybe hear something that like Thomas said and was like, oh, like this guy's shady? And if so, then like, Carl, you really went about it the wrong way. Like, if you were talking about Thomas, you had such a big opportunity to put him on blast and you didn't, and you went about it the wrong way. If you're ever going to tell someone something, if someone's there for the wrong reasons or they're doing something, you need to list names and list facts and say what, like what you know.
You have to be like so much more upfront and transparent. Think of the whole Cody and Aaron situation. Aaron told her, like, listen, this is what happened, this is the truth. And then Cody got all choked up. And obviously, it worked in Aaron's favor for telling the truth. Again, we keep bringing this up, but on Matt's season, Katie was always telling him the truth. She was always giving him information, and it worked in her favor. And I think she really appreciates that. So, why
Mhm.
would you lie and just give like random Easter eggs? Like he just didn't explain anything about who these people were, which is kind of nerve-wracking now too, because it's okay, we clearly see Thomas is someone that Carl might have been talking about, but he was saying it in plural, so there has to be more people.
Yeah. It's just insane. He went about it the wrong way if he was talking about Thomas, and Thomas is such a disappointment. And then again, he goes and he says like, yeah, like I thought I could be the next bachelor. Well, because you said that, now it's not gonna happen.
Right? And like, why would you ever say that? Like, don't, you can think it all you want and tell your friends at home or whatever. I would rather keep it to myself, but don't
Right?
say that, especially during a date where you're supposed to be so vulnerable and open with these people. How do you have Hunter telling his sob story about his divorce and how he's a better man? And then you go to Thomas, who's like, oh, by the way, I'm just here for more followers and I want to be the Bachelor. Don't really like you, Katie.
Yeah, it's
What?
insane. It's insane. And the thing is, he's like, "Oh, when I first got here, like, I didn't," he's like, "I thought I would benefit from a platform, but now, like, we're in what, like, week 3? Oh,
Mhm.
but now, I realize I'm here for love." How? Like, wouldn't you think that when you put in your application to be on The Bachelorette?
Right? Or like, this is week 3. Why would you haven't even had a one-on-one with her. It'd be different if they had a one-on-one, they had like this heartship or heartfelt conversation and you bonded over that, but he hasn't even had a one-on-one. They've barely spoke. So what was your change of heart? Like he was clearly caught in his lie and was probably like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that." He was
Yeah,
so weird.
he's a weirdo.
He's a
I'm not a
weirdo.
fan, but I
Me
cannot
neither.
wait to see the drama continue with him. Then we have Connor the cat.
Connor the
Um,
cat.
so Connor talked about being in the music world and getting caught up in drinking and cheating on his ex, which was kind of shocking.
Shocking.
Like
I
I was not expecting it. My jaw dropped to the ground. I was like,
Me too.
um, and I really like him.
I love Connor. I really appreciated that him and Hunter were so genuine in how they were clearly embarrassed about their past and they have become better people and they really want to show that they've been better people like from the situation. And I just felt so bad for Connor because it's hard to explain a story like that in front of a group of guys who could then go back to the house and tell everybody else your story and make you look like a bad guy and then your whole experience in the house is awkward and that will like seep into your relationship with Katie. But I just love that he was so open. Like I literally was crying listening to him tell this story. I felt so bad. I feel like it's relatable for people, especially in that industry with like acting or musicians. You're always in
Hmm.
bars, drinking, things get out of hand. That becomes your like new norm. So I can totally see how it led to that. And I like that he explained that he went to therapy. He's been working on himself and really finding himself. And I feel like he's such a different person than that person that he was. I really
Yeah,
want to get to know him more. I love Connor.
I love Connor, and I love like the thing is, I feel like that's why I didn't want like I hated Thomas's part of this whole date was because yes, like has people done things that they regret in their past relationships? Of course. I bet if you go into my closet and dig up my skeletons, I will find things that I'm like, I would never do that now, but I've done it in the past. And like, I'm ashamed or like, I regret doing those things. And like, the whole part of it was saying things like, oh, hey, I've done this, but like, because I've done that, I've learned from it.
Hmm.
And Thomas was just sitting there kind of like you were hearing all these heartfelt things and like things that people went through, things that they regret doing. And then you hear Thomas being like saying something so like disingenuine
Hmm.
and like not it was kind of like read the room, Thomas. Like
Absolutely. And I feel like Nick Viall is someone I wish they showed him and panned to him more because I feel like he was sitting there like, what is this dude's deal? I feel like Nick Viall was painted in such a poor light his whole time on the Bachelor franchise until he started his own podcast and he started talking to people and he's such a changed person. And I feel like this was like the perfect date for him to come on because he's so different than from who he was painted at or maybe who he was before. And for Thomas to just be like, oh, I just randomly signed up on the show so I could get a couple more followers and maybe be the Bachelor and be selfish. I feel like Nick Viall's face was like, dude, what the hell are you doing on the show? Like, get out.
yeah, it's crazy. I don't like him.
Me neither. I actually like genuinely feel like he's a shitty guy.
Yeah. And he didn't even seem remorseful like at all. Like nothing he said, like he wasn't like, didn't seem remorseful. Like his apologies didn't seem genuine.
Hmm.
And I feel like he was just trying to like scurry and cover up his tracks because he realized like, oh, like I made a boo-boo. I shouldn't have said that. A, on this date, be to these guys and see on national television.
Right? I couldn't believe it. Like, you couldn't have come up with something else that would have pertained to the actual conversation. Not one thing you could have brought up instead of saying, I'm here for the wrong reasons. It's like, so now you're just letting everybody know that you're anxious about this because clearly you were one of the people that Carl was talking about and you were talking about this openly with all the other guys and you feel the need to explain yourself in front of the guys and Katie. I don't know. He's sketchy.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Me neither.
And lastly, so Katie goes last, and so quickly, like I've never heard like this topic has never been brought up on I don't think
Mm-mm.
the Bachelor franchise ever.
No, I don't think
Not that
so.
I know of. Like that then like for me personally, I've never seen anything on the Bachelor franchise talking about non-consensual sex and like what it feels like to go through those moments. So having Katie like be like, hey, like I was never always sex positive. Like I went through this very traumatic experience and it's changed me and made me who I am today. I think it was really brave for
Mhm.
her to open up on it, especially because she said that her parents didn't know about it and like her parents will be watching it for the first time on TV, seeing her discuss a very sensitive and
Mhm.
like disgusting act that happened to her.
Mhm.
Um, but the one thing I did love, and I really think this is important for anyone, is that like I feel like a lot of people go into relationships and if their partner wants to like have sex, they feel, oh, like I have to do it because they want to.
Yeah,
And they feel like pressured. And like that shouldn't be the case. Like, and she even said it like, if you're gonna pressure me or if you're expecting sex because we're together, like I don't want you to expect that because you should never expect it. Like it's not an expectation, it's not a requirement to be in a relationship. And I think the way she phrased it perfectly by saying like you shouldn't expect this because we're dating. And you shouldn't
100%.
expect all of these things because we're in a relationship because like that's not what a relationship is about.
I agree. And I feel like that's something that's not talked about a lot in traditional media or on social. You know, we have the whole Me Too movement, which is phenomenal. It's great. I feel like no one really talks about actually being in a relationship or having a close friendship with someone and something like this happens and it's wrong.
Hmm.
And yeah, so people have expectations going into a relationship. And I think this is such a good conversation that now everybody can start having in their relationships and open that dialogue and just be a lot more transparent. Like people's libido changes. Like you go through depressive episodes, you're anxious, you're having a bad day, but at the end of the day, you should just be there for your partner. And that doesn't always mean physically. And I think it was so important for her to talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in this day and age, like when you go out on a date and like the guy pays, or like if you're like in a non-traditional relationship, like not any partner, when you go with a partner, people for the most part, like some for the most part, I always hear people, oh, well, like they expect something in return. Like
Mm-hmm.
because they're taking me out, they expect me to like do something sexual. And like that shouldn't be an expectation. That shouldn't be something like if I'm going out on a date, like you shouldn't be expecting anything from me other than my presence and my time and my company.
Yeah. No,
Like, you know what I mean?
exactly.
Like you shouldn't be expecting me to go do something with you after because you took me out on a date. Because I can take myself out on a date. I don't need you to take me out on a date. I can pay for my own stuff. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like that should never be an expectation. And we're in a world right now where that's it's most likely like 9 out of 10 times always expected. And like that should be changed. Like it's not like that's not okay.
No, and that
And
shouldn't be
people
the
shouldn't feel
precedent.
pressured, you know?
Yep. Totally. I loved it. I love that she also brought it up in front of all of the guys. It
Hmm.
wasn't that she just discussed it with one person. It's such a brave thing to do to be able to say this in front of a group of guys that you barely know, to be honest. And someone
Hmm.
like Nick Viall, who is like a big Bachelor Nation fave, it's a big step to acknowledge this and say this in front of everybody watching. And I'm really proud of Katie, and I love that she brought this up and opened that dialogue to make other people feel comfortable who have experienced similar things.
I do too. I loved it. I think this date, minus the Thomas of it all, was amazing. I think it was something so different than what we normally see on the franchise. And I feel like they're now, like, they're slowly bringing in, like, even on Tasha's season, like, they're slowly bringing in real life issues onto the show and discussing it, which I think is important because we do this in our normal lives. Like, when you go out, like, you want to talk about, like, politics. Like, I feel like people are like, oh, like, when you go out, like, you shouldn't talk about politics. You shouldn't talk about, like, religion. You shouldn't talk about sex. Like, those are, like, topics that are off the table, but like you need to know those things about someone that you want to be with, because like you need to see if your morals align, if you guys are really a great fit. And I love that they're showing that more on the show now, because like this is like a normal, like in a normal scenario, like you should be having those conversations with someone.
Yeah, it's not going to always be sunshine and rainbows. And you're totally right. Taboo conversations are important to talk about. That's how you get to genuinely know the person that you're dating and see their morals and their values. And if they aren't aligned, then that's completely fine. You guys can both have separate opinions, but maybe then that's not the right conversation, or sorry, that's not the right relationship for you. And it's so important that we can see that on TV so that people are actually having these genuine conversations. Like, obviously, we're not telling you to attack other people for their opinions or views, but it's so good to have like a healthy conversation and hear each other out before you actually enter something like an engagement that you're planning to marry someone in. It's not that you're just dating around these guys and at the end of this, you all go home. Like, the hope is that at the end, you guys get engaged, and morals and values are so important in a relationship.
Exactly. So I'm really liking the direction that this is going, and I hope to see more of it, like in like Paradise and like The Bachelor. Like I'm really hoping to see more of these conversations, because I feel like it's really important. Like we need to move with the times, and like these are things that are happening to people in real life. And we need to have these discussions and show people it's okay to
Mm-hmm.
have these conversations. It's okay to disagree and realize, you know what, after this conversation, like you're not the right one for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's so important now more than ever to like have those conversations, see like what you want in someone and not to be ashamed,
Mm-hmm.
you
And
know?
this, yeah, and this goes for like all relationships, friendships, family, like
Mhm.
any kind of relationship. This is the types of discussions that you are allowed to be having. They don't have to be taboo. You don't have to not talk about it. It's encouraging, I think, to speak about this and to hear different sides of, opinions, or hearing someone's story and what makes them them.
Yeah, I think the most uncomfortable conversations are the most important ones to have. Like, yeah, like it's uncomfortable. Like it's uncomfortable. Everyone knows like these conversations and these topics are uncomfortable, but you need to kind of get out of your comfort zone and talk about something that's a little bit more controversial in order to really get to know someone to their core.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
That's what's important.
I agree.
Okay, so then after the group date, we had the night portion,
Oh no.
and Thomas just digs his grave further and further. Katie took him aside first, and she wanted to talk to him about the red flags that he mentioned during the group date. And I don't know if Thomas maybe took like a social media training course or anything before going on the Bachelorette, because he was the king of answering the question without answering the question.
Mm-hmm.
Once directly answered her question, but he answered it. Like, you know what I mean?
And it was so uncomfortable to watch. Like, you could tell that Katie was getting frustrated with him, but she's really attracted to him physically, that she couldn't just be like, this is working out and send him home. She really wanted to hear him out, and he was dodging fucking questions left, right, and center, like James Bond himself. And it was so frustrating. Like, just explain yourself. If you This is what makes me believe that he's just like not a good person, is he didn't even like genuinely want to explain himself or apologize for what he said, or just try to twist it a little bit more positive. He was just digging his grave.
Yeah. And then, like, the thing is, he had his time with Katie. And then he interrupts poor Aaron's time with Katie to go again and to say something and to basically say, like, I'm falling in love with you. But he still doesn't answer her questions. Like, so you interrupted someone else's time to go back and reiterate what you said before, but to not answer her original question.
Right? And you're gonna go and interrupt AA Ron. AA Ron does not care who you are, what you do. He's here and he's ready to win Katie's heart, and he doesn't care who gets in the way. Why would you ever interrupt AA Ron? I could, like, okay, maybe the cat, he would have been a little bit more submissive and let it happen. But to go in with the guy that already sent someone else home for almost what you're doing, what are you doing, dude? Come
I
on.
can't. He's such an idiot. Like, he's so stupid. Like, I've never seen someone just like be caught. Like, I've never seen this much of a like screw up since the Victoria, I think it's Victoria P on I think it was Peter's season, when she was like saying how the other girl, like they didn't know each other, but they went on a trip together.
Mm-hmm.
That gave me this vibe.
Yes, me too. And I love that poor Aaron was just watching Thomas watch him, and it was so awkward because him and Katie both acknowledged that they couldn't even concentrate on what Aaron was saying, and he was talking about his what he was talking about in the circle about, him and his ex-girlfriend, and it was like this was his time to finally open up and be vulnerable. And you have Thomas in the corner like pacing back and forth, thinking about how he's going to tell her he loves her without telling her he loves her when he's only talked to her for literally an hour max. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it.
Yeah. And then James, so I love James. He brought up a really good point. He said, I quoted this. How do you go from originally coming on the show for a platform to then discovering within a week that he's here for love? Which is facts.
Mhm.
How do you do that? Like, what switch flips in your head where you're like, actually, you know what? I don't need the platform. I'm here for Katie's heart. You know?
I agree. And I get you can have love at first sight and whatever, but I don't think you can have true love at first sight. I think you have lust at first sight and you can be really attracted to someone. But to go up to someone on a show like this, where everything is so short and condensed, and say those words like, I'm falling for you, that doesn't happen until you're in the final five. What
Yeah.
it was to me really manipulative. Like, you're clearly trying to backtrack on what you were saying, and he was just like throwing a Hail Mary by being like, oh, by the way, I'm in love with you, and thinking that's just going to patch over that he's there for all the wrong reasons. It
Hmm.
was really like ridiculous.
Yeah. And everyone's like, how can you be in love with someone on week 3? Like,
Truly, like, how?
it just doesn't make sense to me.
Same.
Does not make sense to me. But we'll see. I mean, there was no rose ceremony yet, so the drama clearly continues into next week, and I cannot wait to see if he gets sent home or if he survives.
Right. And the fact that, like we said last week, all the quiet guys were roasting him and
Mm-hmm.
asking him what his deal was. That's a red flag to know that this guy needs to go home and that he's trouble.
Yeah. Ugh, disgusting. I don't like him.
Me neither.
So now we have the one-on-one date with Michael. So well deserved. I bawled my eyes out on his date. It was the most emotional thing I've ever seen. He is truly a gentleman, and I just want to say, Michael, I sincerely apologize for roasting you on episode 1. I feel really bad. Everything negative that I said, I take it back
Oh,
because
totally.
I
We
was wrong.
we were so in left field with this guy. Again, like we said last week, it was the Dino Nuggies conversation. But now I'm like, you make Dino Nuggies for your child who is
Yeah.
motherless. Like, oh my God. I was just sitting there like this the whole time. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God. I read him so wrong. And he's
Yeah.
up there in my like top 3 of who I love because he's there for the right reasons.
Yeah. And like it's just like having him kind of spill, like being able to get the opportunity to like say his life. So basically his wife, I can't even like think about it. So he met his wife like in college, and he saw her and he was like, I love this girl, like I'm gonna marry her. And they end up dating and they do end up getting married, which I thought was so stinking cute. I was like, oh my God, like everyone wants that like aha moment like in their life where they're like, they see someone like, I'm gonna marry her or I'm gonna
Mhm.
marry them or whatever. And then they finally have the opportunity to like, get married and have a baby. And when their baby was 7 months old, she ended up passing away from breast cancer.
I don't remember what kind of cancer, but yeah, she ended up getting cancer and
Yeah.
passing away.
And then he said how they traveled all along the country to try and find like, like a solution, and unfortunately like nothing was able to be resolved, so she passed away. And I think the one thing that I loved, and just like he put it perfectly, and I quoted it again. He said, "What a gift." Maybe I didn't quote it right, but he basically said, like, what a gift it is to be able to fall in love twice. And he
Yes.
assured Katie that like if they do like end up being together, like their love for one another will be completely different and more like and unique from like the love he had for his first wife. And I think that is very, very important because like especially when you marry someone and like they pass, like it's kind of sometimes it's uncomfortable because like they never got to like it's not like a divorce where you get to like really like sign those papers and like move on, like you're like I'm done. Like, this like chapter of my life is over. No bad intentions. Like, nothing bad ever happened. You know, like he lost her just like suddenly, and they have a kid together, of course, right? So I think just him being able to be like, hey, listen, like if we move forward and if we do get married, like our love will be so unique. Just like kind of reassures her, like, okay, like, you know, like we're not going to compare the two, you know?
Yeah, that's so important, I think, in a relationship, and being open like that with Katie just shows his maturity, because it would be like, to put myself into Katie's shoes, it's a terrible story, and I cannot imagine what he's gone through. This was also only in 2019. Like,
Yeah.
clearly he's grieved through this and he's open to the possibility of being engaged again. But it was so important, I think, like you said, for him to tell Katie, this is separate from my wife. Like, my wife was someone I thought was my person, and this is who I thought that I was going to live happily ever after with. And her time was cut short, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean that my love life and my happiness and my son's happiness cannot continue on in a different way. And I think that's
Mhm.
perfect for someone like Katie, who explained to him before, I don't know if I want kids. I don't know if I want, my own children. I'm happy to have children that aren't mine, or to adopt, or whatever. She's such an open book. And I think that's
Mhm.
the perfect person for Michael to get along with, that is going to understand that their relationship is so sacred and special to them. And it's going to be so different from his wife that passed away. And I would love that he touched upon that. And he is such a precious gem of a man.
He really is. Like he really made her feel like, even though he was telling her this very sad story that happened to him and like his experience, he made a way of like making sure that she felt special. You know what I mean? And like that's very hard to do. And like I'm sure if a lot of people were in Katie's shoes, like it's uncomfortable. But like when I heard him talking about like his wife and how like he saw her and it was like love at first sight, I fell in love with him even more.
Me too.
Because then you know, okay, like this guy is like the real deal. Like he's in it for me, you know? And I think
Right.
that's probably how Katie saw it, because I would have been like, oh my God, like this guy's here for me.
That's why I think she was so excited and happy. Like, she was like crying happy tears after. And I love that he explained too how, yes, he has a son whose mother is no longer here, but that doesn't mean that he has to sacrifice his happiness. Like, he's allowed to be happy in a new relationship, and that's only going to be a positive for his son, to have that other mother figure that can not fill her shoes but be there for him similarly in like a motherly way. And it was
Hmm.
just such a real and raw conversation. We've never had one of these, I don't think, on The Bachelor or Bachelorette
I
ever
know.
before. It was so like, this is real life for them. They were having a conversation that you would have had two people that were on a date at a bar. Like, this is the exact conversation you have in real life, away from the cameras. And I love that we had the opportunity to hear it and see it.
Yeah, it was a really good day. It was a very emotional episode, and I was living for it. I shed a lot of tears, and it was just like it really gave us an insight into who some of these guys are, and just an insight into their lives, into their hearts. And it was a very different from like a normal Bachelor episode.
I know, I loved it. I'm obsessed. I think it's gonna get even better. Maybe it's gonna get more dramatic, but I love how open these men are. They picked the perfect people for Katie. Like,
Yeah,
imagine if it was a bunch of quiet, shy guys who just like a bunch of Thomases. It would be so boring. If I was Katie, I
yeah,
would literally quit the season. But they picked such a good group of guys, and I'm really excited to see how the relationships evolve moving forward.
yeah. Whoever's doing the casting is doing a great job, because I feel like this is the second season of The Bachelorette where there's not a lot of toxic masculinity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like these guys are very in tune with their emotions, which I love, and they are not afraid to, really put their heart on their sleeve. So whoever's doing the casting, like bravo to you, you're doing a great job.
Facts.
Okay, guys, and then our last little segment of the night was a continuation of the traumas of the Thomas drama. So Hunter, the gem of a man, confronts Thomas about what he said on the group date in front of everyone. And then, first of all, Hunter confronts him privately, which I loved.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of being like, hey, like, what's going on? Like, did you say this? And Thomas was a sinking ship. He could not get his story straight in any way, shape, or form. And then Hunter again confronts him, but in front of the entire house, and basically says, tell everyone what you said on the group date. Did you or did you not say that you were here to be the next Bachelor? And he said yes.
I loved it, especially someone like Hunter, who's older. Like, this man was previously married. He has 2 kids. This guy is not here to fool around. And I think he really had that. It was like a power move for him to go up to Thomas and confront him, and then for him to force him to share that information with the rest of the house. I was like, go Hunter. I love this.
Right? And when Thomas, I don't know if you noticed, when Thomas walked in the room, Connor was standing and it looked like Connor was like, get away from me. Like Connor wanted to be nowhere near Thomas.
Yeah. And Thomas had to like zigzag in. I don't know if you caught that too. He walked in and he didn't really know where to go. People were like kind of like blocking where he was going to be standing. And then someone was in the front. I forget his name. He was the old pro baseball player. I don't know if he's the other Connor. He was humming. He's like,
Oh,
and you
the one
just
that looks
see
like
him
Harry
dodging.
Potter?
Yes. And then you just see behind, like, Thomas is like dodging all the people, and then you have Harry Potter in the front, like humming, like waiting for the cameras to roll, and they're already rolling.
It was amazing. I really liked that everyone got to see, like, this is the real Thomas. And then like when I watched it, I was like, like, was Carl onto something, or was he just like full of shit? It makes me
I
wonder.
I think Carl was onto something, but I also think he was also full of shit. There's a, like, you could just tell the type of guy Carl was. He wasn't there to get engaged. I think, like what you explained a few episodes ago, he was there to get more people to follow along on his little TED Talks. Like, he wasn't there to find love and get engaged. He also wanted a following. I think he was projecting a lot of those feelings onto other people, but
Mhm.
maybe he also did hear Thomas. I still think Carl's a snaky guy, and I'm happy that he's not around,
Yeah,
but I'm also feeling a little bad for him because clearly there was a snake in the grass.
literally. Ugh, I think this episode was chef's kiss. So next week the Thomas drama continues, and I wonder, and Blake comes on next week, but I
Hmm.
wonder if they're gonna like kind of. I feel as though maybe he'll come on towards the end of the episode, and then we'll have to wait another week again.
I think that's going to be, I think he's going to
Which,
come on to the very end, and then they're going to cut it and be like, on next week on The Bachelor.
yeah, which is annoying, but I'm excited to see next week's episode. I'm excited to see if Thomas goes home, and I'm excited to see how the men welcome Blake
Me
if they
too.
do.
Me too. Is it going to be like Heather coming into Matt season and all the girls were bullying her, or is Blake going to come in and everyone's going to be excited? I feel like from the promos watching, he comes in and people are a little bit afraid, and they know, like, he's a good looking guy, he has charisma, he got along so well with Tasia. Why wouldn't he get along this well with Katie? That I think they're going to be a little bit nervous, but I don't think they're going to be as rude and mean as the girls were when Heather came
Yeah.
on Matt season.
Definitely. But yeah, so if you guys ever want us to update you guys on Bachelor news on the podcast, let us know and we will gladly do that. There's so many things happening in Bachelor Nation, and we'd be more than happy to share a quick recap of some, I guess, like highlights of what's going on.
Yeah, things happen so fast in Bachelor Nation. Like, even just 24 hours apart, something huge can happen. So if you guys hear of something, if you read Dumois or any other kind of inside scoop type of Instagram account or any kind of media, let us know and we'd love to chat about it in our next episode. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for tuning in, and we can't wait to discuss all the drama next week that will occur. So yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.
Yes, and if you want to follow us on our YouTube channel at Our Group Chat Podcast, our TikTok at Our Group Chat Podcast, as well as our Instagram at Our Group Chat Podcast. Our personal Instagrams are at Sarah Galley, SarGallylY, at Melena Lindsay, MelainaLindsay on Instagram. And I think
Yes.
I cover the ground for everything. We are on Apple Podcasts, we are on Spotify, we are on a few other podcast locations or podcast platforms
Yeah.
available as well. Yeah.
And make sure to comment on our YouTube page and our Apple Podcast, leave a review on anything you can. We would really appreciate it. And if you have any constructive criticism, I mean, let us know. Don't be too harsh.
Yeah,
Let
don't be
us
too
know.
harsh, but let us know. DM us, write on our Instagram, write on our YouTube. But we're human. Be nice.
Yeah. So we'll see you guys next week with another episode of our group chat podcast.
Yes. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.